Many of the Gen Xers were latchkey kids. Do you know what I mean by that? There's actually, believe it or not, there's a lot of people who are not familiar with the term latchkey kids. What that is, they literally put a key, house key, around their neck or latched it to their backpack because those children were expected to get themselves off the school bus, get themselves into the house, make themselves a snack, and they didn't have microwaves back then, all right? So it was more difficult than it is today. Make yourself a snack, get your own homework done, which they didn't have Google, by the way, and don't burn down the house. All right, wasn't that the expectations that those parents set on the latchkey kids? Well, then that means that these latchkey Gen Xers at age 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, they had this amazing learning opportunity at that young age to figure it out. Solve your own problems. And what happened in our society, this is just fascinating to me as I dive into so many more of these things, is what happened in our society is we used to only get local news. You only heard what was going on in your town. That's what you got. But everything changed in 1980 when CNN became the first 24/7 news channel. And they had 24 hours to fill. So you know what they did? They started telling you stories about your small town. And you started hearing about stories from his small town. Because they had this whole day of news to fill. And that's when people from small town Georgia heard about the little girl in Maryland who got kidnapped out of her own front yard. Everything changed. All of a sudden, as soon as we had this new information, all of a sudden parents started changing their tune. It wasn't, hey, just go outside and play and make sure you're back by dark or come back for dinner. It wasn't that kind of mantra. No. We switched it to what we called stranger danger. You are not allowed to be out there by yourself. You need supervision. Today, can you even imagine? My niece is 9 years old and they'd call the cops if my sister left her home by herself. But she's 9 years old. I keep saying that's crazy. She's 9 years old. She can handle it for an hour while you go to the grocery, right? But other people say, no. And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong on that. I'm just saying that's the discussion. It's like some people say, 9 years old, she's practically a grown-up. And other people say, 9 years old, she's a baby. She's still a baby, right? We just see it so different, don't we? So when that change occurred in the 1980s, we started to parent much differently. We had this whole stranger danger mantra. Then by 1990, the federal government had put after-school care funding in place. Because no, the kids can't go home by themselves, and we don't want only the rich kids to have nannies and the poorer kids don't have anybody to watch them, right? So we'll put funding in place and we'll make sure all the kids are watched from 3 to 5 or whatever after school, right? They started to do that. That was a societal shift that made a huge difference in our workforce, because today some of you are like, what is she talking about? How does this apply to me as an employer? Here's why it applies to you as an employer. We cut training and development years ago. Now we are just doing the compliance training, right? You're just doing your in-services. You're just doing what people have to have. And that's because the Gen Xers didn't need a whole lot of training. They didn't need training for the job. They didn't need a whole lot of training. I mean, some things, but they could figure more out. They didn't need training to become supervisors and managers. They just figured it out. Some of them are better than others, but they just dove right in and were like, well, I'll figure it out. And today, now your millennial workers are saying, well, I don't know how to do that. I need training. Well, isn't somebody going to show me? And then you go, oh, are you kidding me? Just do your job. Just figure it out. I don't have time to handhold you. Just figure it out. They are not equipped. Does this make sense? They're not equipped. They didn't have that learning opportunity back then that we had for Gen Xers, for example. So very different type of workforce today that we have to implement more training, because that sink or swim model, I have several clients who say, oh, we pride ourselves on this sink or swim model. You're either going to make it or you're not. One of my clients calls it TTW, throw them to the wolves. That is in their handbook. Like, this is how we promote people into management. We have a TTW strategy. We just throw you out there, and if you make it, great. Can we afford to do that today? Can we afford to lose people just because we didn't train them properly and we set them up to fail? That's on us. And then the problem is we give the millennials a bad rap for not being able to figure it out, and to just, that, oh, they need hand holding, et cetera, when it's not their fault. It's not their fault.